Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channels and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes and Spotify to continue hustling. This episode is sponsored by Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, doTERRA, Sherman College of Chiropractic, New Patients in a Box, the Influencer Authority Podcast Training, Mango Voice, Community Healthcare Resources, and Invisired. Let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 393 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I am your producer, Luke Millette, and here is your host, James Chester.
So today we have the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Mark T. Wade. And if you want to know more about virtual summits and growth in chiropractic, stay tuned. Welcome back. This is another episode of the Chiro Hustle podcast. Today is episode 393. Can you believe it? I can. I've done all of these. This is Mark T. Wade coming in from St. Pete. Dr. Mark T. Wade coming in from St. Petersburg, Florida. So happy to have you on today. But before we jump into this episode of the Chiro Hustle podcast, I'm just going to let people know the big why. Why do we do what we do? Why have we been so damn consistent? Well, number one, we protect free speech in chiropractic. I think that is like the absolute essential of why we created this podcast, was to keep the channels of communication free and open. We also protect the sacred trust. BJ Palmer Sacred Trust. If you don't know what that is, go to your favorite search engine and do a quick search for BJ Palmer Sacred Trust. And we do support subluxation-based chiropractic. That's another big word. If you guys are watching this, you're not chiropractic related, go do a quick search for what a subluxation is. And last, we also believe in innate intelligence and universal intelligence, and that when somebody gets adjusted, it connects that person, the physical, to that person, the spiritual. And with that being said, welcome to the show, Dr. Mark.
What's up, James? Excited to be here.
Yeah, this is so exciting, man. I know that we're going to share a lot of information about marketing and branding and strategy and how to actually use one system that you've created on virtual summits. But before we get into that, one of my favorite things to ask on our show is your story. And I know a lot of times people, they think they know you. They think that they know where you've come from just because you're their friend or you've taken care of them in a clinic setting or something. But a lot of people might not know like the real deal story of who Dr. Mark T. Wade is. So how did you get into this beautiful profession of chiropractic?
Well, a lot of times I'll start with the story about how I got to Italy, and that's where I started practicing for the first time. But I think people have heard that story. I mean, I practiced over in Italy for almost a decade, and we created some pretty amazing things, me and my partner, Dr. Krista Burns, over there. But like you just said, where's the story actually begin? The story that actually took me into chiropractic is back when I was in my college, back in my 20s. Actually, I was 20, and I was pulled out of my program. I was studying biology. I believe I was a major in biology there, and I was pulled out and I was sent halfway across the world to fight in a war in Iraq. And so at the age of 20, away from all my friends, all my family, I was over there, and I remember a very specific time where I was on patrol with my squad, and we came under ambush, under fire. And as the guns fire kind of calmed down, the smoke settled, the dust cleared, I remember seeing for the first time like death up close and personal. Is the first time I'd actually seen it. And later that night, I was sitting in my tent there in Iraq, and I just remember it all coming back through me. My hands were shaking, tears were coming down my face, and I just thought, like, if I died today, would anybody even remember me? Like, what have I done? What legacy have I left? What difference have I made in the world? Like, what would live on past this? And I remember sitting there and I made a vow that if I survived my tour in combat, that I would spend the rest of my life making an impact and leaving a legacy for myself and for others. And so I feel like that is one of the shining arrows that has kind of guided me throughout everything I've done in my life. I feel very blessed and joyful that I've had a full life. I've lived in a variety of different countries and continents. I've accumulated a vast, expansive letters behind the end of my name with multiple doctorates and certifications. And I've had the benefit of practicing in a couple different countries and also coaching and teaching with chiropractors, but also being able to create technology and expand the way that chiropractors are able to reach more people in their local communities as well as globally. And so I feel very blessed with that. But I'd say what brought me to this point starts back then at 20 years old over in Iraq.
That's it's really powerful, and I didn't know a lot of that about you. So I'm sure that our audience that's listening to episode 393 is going to get some takeaways from perseverance and protecting the sacred trust of freedom, which I think that this story starts with. And now you're a chiropractor. You're also creating strategies for people to get more exposure and more traction in the world of marketing. That's where I'm most excited to take our conversation today. And let's tell people about the virtual summit software that you have that we're going to close out with giving people an offer on. But let's talk about that a little bit.
Well, what's kind of cool about, like, first off, a virtual summit, like, I think now a lot more of us have been exposed to virtual summits. For anybody who has never heard of what a virtual summit is, it is essentially a series of pre-recorded presentations or interviews that solve a problem or a series of problems by bringing together thought leaders, micro influencers, all to talk on those problems. And it's given away typically for free over a set period of time. So it's a really great way for people to get, direct to the source, direct to like the people who are kind of, right there with the answers for free in a really short amount of time. I like to say it's kind of like reading 30 books in a weekend. So it's really powerful like that. Now, how does that actually relate to chiropractic and the profession and chiropractors is, well, when we started out in practice, we kind of did it the old school way. We were going around handing out our business cards to everybody, around the block. We were, trying to create collaborations with people who were hanging our signs up. And we were kind of wondering like why our clinic wasn't growing at that time. And it's comical now. I can look back at it now. But at the time I realized it's, for one, I was asking people to do favors for us without ever doing anything for them. Hey, tell your clients, tell your patients, tell your people about me. And they're like, why would I do that? What have you done for me? And, on the other side of that is there was really no way to reach or add value to people. Now, we ended up doing some things that were very powerful. Like we used things like spinal screenings and dinners with the docs and health fairs. We did a lot of those and they were all very powerful. But I really remember one time sitting there. I actually have a picture of it. I like to show. I had one of my team members take it, one of our CAs. And it was me standing on the side of a curb under a tent, explaining chiropractic. And there was a line of people waiting to be checked. But I remember taking it and going like, there's just got to be a better way. Like, am I really going to be standing on the side of the road under a tent on the weekends for the rest of my career? And so I started studying. I said, you know what? I'm going to look into them. There's got to be better ways of doing this. And so I started studying like some of the top chiropractors in the profession. What were they doing to grow their practices? I then said, okay, like there's really interesting stuff here, but like, why stop here? I started studying some of the top healthcare professions. What are they doing to get people, patients, clients into their businesses? And then I said, why stop here? And so then I just started studying some of the top businesses, brands, and entrepreneurs on the planet and what were they doing. And I ended up taking that information, creating kind of a new system. And that system evolved into this one-day virtual summit. Now, the cool thing is with a virtual summit, there's a variety of different types and styles and ways of doing summits. There's also different formats of doing them. But this one that we came up with ended up working perfectly for us. It ended up helping us grow our practice. But from there, we ended up helping other people in our profession, colleagues, friends, saying, hey, how are you doing this? What are you doing? And sharing that insights with them, which then created connections and collaborations for me with some of the top chiropractic thought leaders on the planet. I've been able to consult and work with some of them, sharing the same strategy, the same idea. And then from there, it expanded even beyond chiropractic. I've been able to work with some of the top businesses, brands, and entrepreneurs on the planet, such as people like Lewis Howes, John Lee Dumas, we've had like Ty Lopez, Jeff Walker, Russell Brunson, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. List goes on and on, helping them with this same kind of strategy. Now, back to the software, what you mentioned at the beginning is when we started doing these, which was almost a decade ago, I think maybe 7 or 8 years ago, there was no easy way to do it. First off, there was not a lot of virtual summits at that time to begin with. So I didn't really have anybody to learn from or figure out how to do it. I just kind of jumped in and did it. And I still remember that very first virtual summit. It was a 1-day summit. It took me 7 different pieces of software, 26 plugins, over 100 hours. And still look like it cost me over $7,000 and still look like a third grader built it. Right. And so I just remember saying to myself again, for a second time, there's got to be a better way of doing this. And so at that time, there was no better way. I looked and looked and looked, and that took us to the next step in this journey, which was I decided to create the first platform for hosting virtual summits called Virtual Summit Software. And it was the first platform out there. Now, naively, I thought, oh, how difficult could it be? I'm going to just keep doing my practice. We also have this coaching program. We're going to keep doing that. And, I'll just have this software company kind of on the side and it'll run itself. Well, I quickly realized that's not, how it works. And I ended up having to go full time into that company. And that just opened up a lot of doors for me, being able to help consult and coach on the marketing and branding and reach side of things really kind of gave me a different vantage point, a different viewpoint of how everything even works, which really feels good because I was able to step out of from my day to day and what I normally see and think and go, okay, here's the bigger picture. Here's actually how we can do it. And then full circle the last several years, after having helped, at the beginning, a lot of chiropractors do this, and then moving forward and helping entrepreneurs and brands and businesses in a variety of different niches and industries and other health professionals as well. I've come full circle back into chiropractic for the last 2 years, been specifically focused on helping chiropractors not do a virtual summit in the way that they are done in a variety of the other niches, which is primarily to sell something online. Let's say it like that. That's an easy way of thinking of it. But for chiropractors to actually get new patients into their brick and mortar practices, which every time I have this conversation a lot of time with chiropractors, they're like, whoa, stop it. Stop dogging. You're talking about doing like a virtual summit. I don't even know what that is. That sounds crazy, but I'm a practicing doc. How in the world am I supposed to do this? So I'm happy to jump into some of the specifics of it. But before we do, I just want to say, we have helped hundreds, if not thousands of chiropractors at this point actually implement 1-day virtual summits. Between the strategy and the software now, it can be done in a matter of hours. Most of the chiropractors that we've helped have actually just handed most of it off to their team or their CAs if they have them, and they've been able to do it. But it hasn't just grown their practices, which is what almost always gets their attention. They're like, I want new patients. I want more patients. That always gets their attention. And it's one of the most powerful strategies I've ever seen in action for that. It's like combining a spinal screening, a health fair, or a dinner at the doc together, and you never have to leave your office to do it. So that's one of the benefits. But it also has increased their ability and their reach, their exposure, their ability to be asked to speak in local businesses. If we're talking about getting the message out to more people, what if you were getting asked every week by 2 to 3 businesses, hey, can you come talk to us about that thing we heard you talk about on that virtual summit, which happens every single time I've seen a chiropractor host a summit. They've been asked for months after to come do talks, health talks, whatever, into businesses. They've also been given speaking opportunities. They've kind of been positioned as the local health celebrity in their communities. And I mean, we can talk about a variety of other benefits, but I think it'll be important into the how, so that people can understand, what happens from it. But very, very powerful, very, very beneficial. And the software is, as you mentioned, the virtual summit software is one of the pieces that makes this possible. It allows, if people had to do it the way I had to do it the first time, it just wouldn't be possible. Most of us don't have 100 hours of spare time to figure it out. They don't want to spend $7,000 or whatever crazy amount. They just want it now, and they want it as inexpensive as possibly. And that's where the virtual summit software comes in.
Well, I'm excited to do a bunch of these with you, number one, because I think that there's a different niche that you can use this type of strategy for to build your awareness model. You can do it to build your relationship equity in the world, and you can do it. One of the things that you said earlier was evergreen. Let's just talk about that granular concept of evergreen so people can say, bingo, that's it. I want that.
So what's really cool with a summit, and let's position it specifically for our chiropractors right now so you can understand where it's coming from. So you have a community out there that needs to hear your message, right? Like raise your hand if you do. Every single one of you should have a hand up right now, right? The problem is, how do we get that message out to more people? We're doing a lot of the things that we're being told. And again, they do work. Spinal screenings work, dinner with the docs work, health talks or health fairs work. I mean, but it's pretty time consuming, as in you or somebody on your team has to be there and do it every single time. And a lot of times you got to pay for that opportunity as well. But let's stop and think about why those work, because that then ties into why this concept of a one-day summit works. Is they work because the people who are meeting you have an opportunity to actually meet you and build rapport. They get to know you, they get to like you, they get to trust you. You are also educating them on a topic of your topic of chiropractic. So they see you in this position of authority, of influence. You have the rapport, and now you have this authority. And usually you're giving them an opportunity, a special opportunity to come in that they're not going to just get on a normal day. They can't just go to your website and get it. So it also creates this special opportunity to come in. Well, that's exactly what a one-day virtual summit does, is it creates a reason. You're going to take that topic, that message you have, but we're going to start with the end in mind. So where do we want to bring this audience once we've established them? We want to take them to our practices. Okay, so what's the number one thing you do? What are you known for? What are you the expert at in your practice? So that might be different for different practitioners, different chiropractors, but decide what that is. Whatever that is, there's probably a particular problem or reason that people are coming in to see you right now. Okay, whatever that problem or reason is, that's what we're going to want to build our one-day virtual summit around. Why? Because it's going to attract the people with this problem who are going to be perfect for you to come into your practice, into your clinic. So now that we have the problem that we're going to build our one-day virtual summit around, what we're going to end up doing is we're going to reach out. A one-day summit, how it differs from like all the other ones is it's one day, as it says, but it's not a full day in content. It's not a full day in length. It just means that the audience has one day to consume it. So it also eliminates overwhelm. Anybody's willing to go, hey, I've got tomorrow to solve my problem if their problem is big enough. They may not give up a week or like 20 hours or 50 hours, but they'll give up one day or a few hours to get that problem solved.
You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is sponsored by Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, doTERRA, Sherman College of Chiropractic, New Patients in a Box, the Influencer Authority Podcast Training, Mango Voice, Community Healthcare Resources, and Invisired. Let's hustle.
So the other aspect of it is it's only got about 5 to 10 speakers on it, whereas other styles of summits have anywhere from around 30 on upwards of 80. I've done summits that have had hundreds. So 5 to 10 people. So you know 5 people in your community. You probably know 5 health professionals in your community that maybe you already have a relationship with, or you would like to have a relationship with because they would be great referral sources for you. That's another benefit or power for this, is you're now establishing relationships with other health professionals in your community who can become referral sources to you and to your practice. That's great. So now you're going to reach out to those, let's say 5 healthcare professionals. Maybe it's the dentist, maybe it's the nutritionist, maybe it's the personal trainer, or whatever it is, the massage therapist. You may even have some of them in your own practice right now. Who knows? But you're going to reach out to 5 of them and say, hey, I'd love to give you an opportunity to speak on our virtual summit. You're going to be a featured speaker. The topic is this topic, whatever the problem is, and I'd love for you to share your insights on that topic. Now, remember, I said it's pre-recorded. What they're going to do is they're going to record a video of themselves talking on that topic. Maybe they're doing it with their phone, or they got a camera, or they're using their computer. They record it and send it to you. So it's not even like you have to spend a lot of time doing this either. So that's another benefit to the one-day virtual summit. So now you've got 5 healthcare professionals all talking on this topic, but you're the host. You're the main person. It uses this concept called expert leverage. You're leveraging the expertise, the credibility, the authority of all of these other health professionals that are speaking on the summit, but you're also leveraging their communities. All of them have followings, all of them have, tribes in the community. You're going to be able to reach all of them. And of course, you're the one talking on it. You get to talk about what topic you want. You get to talk as many times as you want. Again, all pre-recorded, so it's done in advance. And then when this goes out, now the people who attend it, those in your community, are seeing you as the expert, as the host of this virtual summit. Now, just like many of you are probably thinking, this sounds like a lot of work. It sounds really difficult. It's not. And there's really easy strategies to implement this. You could actually have this done in the next 30 days. That's how easy it could be done. But to them, it seems like a big, massive thing as well. So they're looking at you as the host of this, and that establishes that authority. Plus, now they know what you do, and they know you have the solution to their problems. So they're pre-educated and qualified potential new patients. That's what we all are looking for, right? So once it's done, the first time you run it, again, we say live or launch. I don't mean live stream. I just mean the first time it's available to the community, then it's out there. It happens. You'll probably be still busy adjusting patients over here while that's all happening, because it happens on the platform, on Virtual Summit software, which handles everything. And if you're sitting there going like, I'm not techie, I'm not a big tech person, I don't know how to do that. If you can use a keyboard, I promise you can do a virtual summit using Virtual Summit software. We have hundreds of chiropractors who are sitting there thinking the same thing, who've all done it on this platform. Now, back to your original question, evergreen. So after it happens the first time, well, that was great. We got, 100 new patients, which is generally what we see, 100 new patients within 30 days when the first time you do your one-day virtual summit.
Wow.
Well, that's pretty cool. Yeah, love that. But what if you could continue to get more new patients every month from this? Unlike a spinal screen or dinner with the doc, where you have to go and you have to redo it every single time, the Virtual Summit software has technology built into it where one click of a button, it will rerun the summit as if it's still happening for the very first time. So this is the concept we would call evergreen, means it's continually good. You can use it over and over again. So now you've done this one time, you can continue to use this one-day summit every single month to generate new patients into your practice. So it's good forever. It's a forever summit, or what we would call the Ever Summit. Now, with that being said, you're also not just going to use it to get new patients. You're also going to use it to give to your current patients. This is a way for them to see you continuing to educate them. It's also a really easy way for them to refer to you. Referrals are one of the top types of new patients we can get, but it's difficult to get, to train the patient on how to communicate with their family and friends and how to explain what we do, and then how to tell them how to get here. And then their friend still has to put their pants on and get in their car and drive over to you, which can be kind of scary. But when their friend or family member goes, hey, check this link out, this is my doc I was telling you about, and they can just click a link and learn about you and see you in action, they're now looking at you as like, wow, this is great. It's no longer scary. That is what I need. I now have no like and trust or rapport with that doctor. I'm way more likely to come into practice. So increases referrals. And then from a retention standpoint, any past patients that are no longer in practice, this is a total add value. Like, hey, I was thinking about you. I wanted to give you this. There's no strings attached. And that's the perfect opportunity for them to go, you know what? That is right. I have been meaning to come back in and see you. So it really hits all ends of the spectrum. And like you were saying, James, is evergreen. It's forever good. We're going to continue to use it month after month after month. And that's exactly what we've seen. I've got Dr. Greg Eckel implemented a one-day summit. It's been probably a year and a half now since he did it. I remember helping him specifically do this. He's like, Mark, I have no clue on tech. I'm not a techie person. He did the same strategy. He brought in 6 healthcare professionals. He focuses on brain, which is where his expertise is. So he actually did the summit based on Parkinson's to get people that were having this specific problem in. And he ran that with the 6 healthcare professionals. And then he ran it on the Ever Summit every single month. 1 year after he had been running that, he had generated over 100 new patients a month on average. And he had done over $1 million in new patient revenue 1 year after, only from doing that one-day summit. That's not counting the other stuff. So that evergreen aspect of it can definitely accumulate and really add to that bottom line of our practices, as well as impact in our community. Speaking of impact, we got Dr. Angela Hall. I think she was, I can't remember exactly where she was based in, but I remember when we helped her do her one-day summit, her local newspaper, same thing. I think she had 8 health professionals in her community speak on it. Her local newspaper picked up that one-day summit and ran it on the front page of her local newspaper. She said for months after that, she would go to the grocery store and people were coming up to her going like, "Oh my gosh, you're Dr. Hall. You're Dr. Hall. I saw you on that virtual summit." Like, she said she literally felt like a local celebrity in her community. And we've got story after story about these, all from one-day virtual summits.
Well, as I'm listening to you talk about this and the passion you have for it and the way that chiropractors can utilize this simple strategy to do marketing better, I don't see any reason why anybody wouldn't jump in on this like immediately. I know that there's probably a little bit of a setup time. What does it look like if somebody does want to work with you, and how you said you could get this up in 30 days? Can you kind of walk us through that strategy a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So we actually have a program called the Virtual Summit Training Program for chiropractors. We specifically created this to help chiropractors be able to implement these one-day virtual summits into their local practice to generate new patients. Again, it does a lot of extra things too, in like a one-day summit, in the sense of like, if you're looking to have virtual streams of revenue, maybe you want to have that little insurance there, just in case ever anything ever happens to our practices again. It does that. It does a variety of other things. It's also really great if you have, you want to start educating, training, etc. But the Virtual Summit Training Program has been shortened down into about 2 hours of very specific, here's exactly what needs to happen. We've created it so either you or you could just hand it off to your team member are able to do this. And we say within 30 days because it really only takes about 30 days to set up. You have essentially the concepts or inside of this training program are going to take you through like, what is a health summit, how to choose the perfect summit topic, how to recruit the best speakers. I know a lot of the docs I work with, they always get nervous about asking other people to speak on the summit. And we have exact strategies. You even have my exact email template. You just put your information in there and you can send that out to these healthcare professionals. And it's almost guaranteed they're going to say yes, right? Mm-hmm. We also go through how to create a summit, a health summit offer. So if you actually want to use your summit to make revenue as well, I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't, but if you don't have to, but shows you how you can quickly and easily make revenue on a summit. Because even though we said the summit is free to attend, what happens is a lot of the attendees are like, this is amazing. This is great. I want to keep this forever. I want to come back and watch this later, etc. So we give them these opportunities like the all access pass, which they can purchase for like $47 or $97, a nominal fee. And that ends up generating revenue on your summit. I mean, like Dr. Kevin Christie did this into his practice. He's actually run over 10 different virtual summits. Now he's been running. He's was one of the first chiropractors we ever helped with this. And he's done them in a variety of different ways. His first virtual summit, he actually ended up generating $15,000 just on the virtual summit, not from new patient revenue, but just from the virtual summit, from that little all access pass, which is pretty cool. But he's also did it, he did one specifically in his community. I think it was called the Runners and Triathlons Injury Prevention, something like that, because he specifically works with that demographic. And he used his one-day virtual summit to reach out to specific people in his community, not influencers, but what would the word be, like people that he knew would be great referral sources. And he reached out, gave them this opportunity, was able to create a relationship with them. And then they ended up becoming great referral sources for him. So there's a variety of different ways of doing that. So we talk about how to create a summit health offer. We show you exactly how to do it. We have templates. We have how to build your health summit in less than 2 hours. So whatever your summit is going to be on, we show you how to build that. You also get access. You get a discounted access to the Virtual Summit software, which again, if you can use a keyboard, you can build a virtual summit in less than 2 hours. It's that simple. We go through what to do when your health summit goes live. We go through post-summit profit strategy, how you can continue like Dr. Greg did. He generated over $1 million in a year from using his one-day summit. And then also what to do when your health summit ends, okay? Because we want to put that onto that Ever Summit. So it covers a variety of different things in there and shows you exactly what to do. It also comes, that Virtual Summit training program comes with a calendar. It's a 30-day calendar, because you can do it in 30 days if you want. Also comes with a 60-day calendar for my procrastinators over there. So, and it just walks you step by step. Day 1, do this. Day 2, do this. Week 2, do this. Week 3, do that. And he tells you exactly what to do. Everything's in the program. You get the calendar to show you what to do. You can either hand that off to your assistant, your CA, and they can do it. Or if you want to, you can do it yourself. It can be done in about 30 days with about 5 to 7 hours a week of work.
Well, you've definitely inspired me to go all in on this. And I know there's probably a lot of people out there that are watching this that are ready to go all in and learn how to set up their one-day virtual summit. So let's give them some web resources. I know we're going to put a link in the show notes and in the comments below. But maybe you can share with them a couple of websites we can drive them to if they wanted to learn more about the process.
Absolutely. So I will say for sure, anybody in James's community here, I'm going to give him a special link. So he's going to get a special price to our virtual summit training program. So if you're interested in that, do it through the link here, because you won't get it at this price anywhere else. And we're talking like this is as low as you can possibly get. But if you just want to learn more about virtual summits and check out, maybe the software, you can go to virtualsummits.com, or you can just Google virtual summit software. We are the longest running, and we're the first platform ever created. We've hosted over 4,000 summits on our platform. On our site, virtualsummits.com, we have a bunch of resources that are available for free. We have a podcast too. We're big believers in podcasts. And we have podcasts, we got free resources, we got case studies, all of those things there. We've got some chiropractors telling their story and their case study or their testimony on how they were able to use one-day summits to build their practices as well. So all of that can be found over at virtualsummits.com.
Well, Dr. Mark T. Wade, you are a blessing to this chiropractic world. And I'm so thrilled to have you on as episode 393 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. You created so much value and resource for people. I'm excited to see what transpires beyond this. And like I always tell people, when the thing's over, that's when the work begins. And when the summit is through, that's when the work really begins for people. And, it sounds fun. It's creative. It's innovative. It gives people another arrow in their marketing strategies. And maybe this is the one-stop shop for people to figure out that once they do this, they have so much fun doing this that they're going to come up with different topical strategic plans to start creating, like you said, a whole category and library full of summits that they can plug and play how they choose to. I know that it's going to be a dynamic opportunity for anybody that wants to do it. We're going to put the link in the show notes and in the comment below. So Dr. Mark, I just want you to have an amazing rest of your day down there in St. Petersburg, Florida. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you felt like we should share with people?
Well, I really appreciate this opportunity, James. I know you got a pretty amazing community here, and I'm really excited to see what they do with it. I know many of them are going to take it, run with it, and we're going to see the impact they make. I just want to kind of leave them with this message, though, is like, you have a message that matters. Like, I say that to a lot of people because I personally believe, after that experience I had in Iraq, how important each and every one of our messages are. But as a chiropractor, it's even more important. You have a message that matters, and people need to hear that message. And if we're not doing everything humanly possible to get that message out in front of more people, what are we doing? And I understand it's hard. It's not always easy to get that message out there, but we're giving you a solution here, which is proven. It's tested. It's been used by chiropractic thought leaders all the way down to brand new chiropractic students who just graduated from school to build their practice. It works. And you might be feeling a little scared right now because there's so many unknowns still wrapped in it. And it's just way easier for you to go, sounds cool, but I'm not going to do it. But I promise you, if you take a little time, dig a little deeper, you're going to see not only why and how it works, you're going to see that you can do it too. In 30 days from now or 60 days from now, you could have a new strategy that works every single month and builds your practice every single month, positions you as the local health celebrity in your community, but more importantly, get your message out to more people so that we can help more people. We can make a difference in their lives. And as my coach, my mentor, Tony Robbins always says, you can do what everyone else is doing the best. You can be the best at what everyone else is doing and still only get incrementally better results. or you can do what no one else is doing and get exponentially better results. So that's what I would challenge you to do. James, thank you so much for having me on here. It's been an amazing time. Love hanging out with you. Thank you, brother.
Well, you're so kind and so generous, and I'm so thankful. This is one of the most impactful episodes of Chiro Hustle ever because of the potentiality for people that take action with the offer that we're providing to them. And you guys are just one story away. Keep hustling. Closing out today at 393 Chiro Hustle. Love and appreciate you, brother. Can't wait to run my own virtual summit. Talk soon. Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.